back once again. It is Beer 30 Live. How's everybody doing? How are you, man?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I am actually really good. I've been told I'm behind, though. I'm a little late
You are?
today. Yeah. Thank you for not starting without me.
We almost did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on my motorcycle. It's a beautiful day, so I couldn't quite call. It's a little difficult to do. Although I've done that before. My kids are calling, I hear it vibrating, so I stop at the stoplight, and I open my helmet, and I'm like yelling at it through the helmet. Hello! I'm on my way! It's kind of...
Stop calling!
I know, it's kind of hilarious type of thing. Anyways,
Yeah.
Shane's here as well, and we're still missing Pete.
We are.
Still missing Pete. My hands are still shaking from this.
Not only are we not
Shane.
missing, not only are we missing Pete, but Pete didn't put up last week's show.
Exactly.
Either.
So
Pete,
there's a lot missing in action.
I heard that about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a personal thing.
Hey, we're all due for vacations every once in a while.
We are.
Let's
Well,
not.
actually,
Mary, you are fired up about this.
today's conversation?
No, about Pete being
About
gone.
Pete being
Yeah,
gone.
she
We got the
is.
little board. We got the lack of
I
equipment.
know. It's like we're second
This
rate.
didn't have a
Hey.
battery in it.
You know what?
What?
Yeah.
We're second-class citizens now.
I agree with Pete for not giving me that big board, though. I'm going to give him that.
Is it too much power for you to
Well,
handle?
yeah.
Is that,
It would have been too intimidating.
don't give you the big chainsaw?
I feel sorry.
Give you the little boy
Yeah.
one that plugs in?
I feel sorry for Pete because hell hath no fury like a
Pregnant woman scorned.
scorned by a small mixer.
You look more beautiful every
That's
week, by
true.
the way.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, it's
Thank
true.
you.
It's
Thank
true.
you.
You want to introduce our guest?
Yes. Today we have Jan Dabrowski with us, who is the chair of the Math and Science Department at Merrillhurst University. So I'm very excited. A colleague of mine who's willing to come on the show.
You sure you didn't want to change your name at all? Or?
Yeah.
What show? You told me you were going to buy me a beer. What's this about?
We could give you a pseudo
conned
name,
them
fake
here.
name. Type of
They're,
thing.
right.
So,
So,
okay.
our topic today is going to be on global warming.
Oh, okay. I was hoping it wasn't math because
Yeah.
the square root of 7 just wasn't my idea of fun.
Right. No.
Global warming.
Global warming. So
That and who invented the internet, is that
it's
right?
time.
Internets?
Yeah.
Do we have any
Anyway.
headlines?
We do. I have a few. You have none.
You do? I have one.
Okay. You lead off then.
Me?
Yeah, because you're. Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, I do have one, and I didn't bring a copy, and I apologize for that. But I was very happy to read just the other day that the Oregon Senate has passed a bill to, and they've got a process that they're going through, but essentially the result is universal health care in Oregon, where money that you would normally put into health care would go into a system. The Medicare and Medicaid money would go in. It gets rolled up with the Oregon Health Plan, and assuming it's some kind of tiered thing. But really taking a larger comprehensive approach to health care instead of the measured kind of
Right.
tidbit things we've been doing. And I'm really excited about that. And you know who's driving that is John Kitzhauer.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of the more progressive.
Wasn't he a doctor?
Yes,
He's a doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Former governor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
probably our most progressive governor in a long time, and certainly not been nearly as progressive since he left. And so I actually feel really good about it.
Now, doesn't it go to the House next?
Well, it does, and then it has to go back it's got to go to some kind of committee who's going to actually put together all the details, and it has to go back for another vote next year. But I'm just happy to see
Finally doing
some kind of legislation going through, and John's he and I are not on a personal basis, right? But met him a couple times, talked to him. He seems like a very genuine, authentic guy, and he's working very hard for Oregonians. And so I feel really good about it. I think it's very cool.
Right. Yeah.
Compared to a lot of the crap we seem to be getting out of the state and federal government these days.
Right.
So it's good. That's
Yeah.
my headline.
Well, and I was reading something recently where they were talking about, there are 40 or 50 million uninsured Americans. The real issue, which is a problem, definitely. But another big issue is how many are undershired. So
Yeah.
they're paying for insurance, and then something happens,
Yeah, it's not
and
nearly
their
enough.
insurance doesn't cover it. And so, in fact, didn't Michael Moore's movie Sicko just premiere?
Yeah, that is.
So,
come out.
and that's supposed to be pretty good.
I've heard it's good, and Michael Moore actually is. It's come out on YouTube and it's
Oh, is it?
downloadable
Really?
and things, and he's come out in the news saying that he's okay with that. That if people
It's
want to
the
watch it that
viral,
way,
yeah.
it's fine, and I applaud him for
He's
that.
more about the message.
Yeah, compared to the RIA and the record industry and stuff that
Right.
suing moms for downloading one Green Day song and hauling
Yeah.
them off to jail. Mommy, don't go to jail for Green Day. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
RIA.
Good point.
Yeah, but we do need to do that healthcare show.
We
need
do.
to
I know. And we've talked
Yeah.
about it and talked about it. So
Yeah. But today
You
we
gotta
have
find the-
global warming.
Yes.
Right. It'll be a very good
it
topic.
will be a good topic. Well, I thought it was interesting that Cheney's now announced that he's not part of the executive branch, so therefore he doesn't have to follow the rules.
Which
That guy's a piece of work.
Is-
which
Isn't he?
branch does he belong to?
The Cheney branch.
I think Jan said it best before the show. How'd that go, Jan?
We never know.
Jan's worried.
Well, you just ruined it. You just spoiled my joke right there.
There. Shane was setting you up.
I was setting up to
know.
knock it out.
Cheney has jumped through a lot of legal hoops to try and remain above the law and executive oversight. I find that very fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like he invoked executive privilege about his secret energy meetings.
yeah.
Now he's not part of the executive branch in order to keep something else secret. It's kind of
Yeah, I'm not
interesting how that logic works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
18 months. I think somewhere I saw there's a countdown like you can put on your desktop.
Yeah.
No, a
Until
friend of mine.
machine
A
change.
friend of mine has it's a keychain. It shows days, hours, minutes,
Yeah.
seconds.
Does
I'm
it
telling you,
really?
countdown on your desktop till regime change.
I think
in
we're
the
like
United States.
we're probably around like 576 days. I think.
Yeah, it'd be
Wow.
a year and a half.
576.
It's a long time. My opinion.
I'm a pretty good conservative, and I must say I'm a little fatigued and disappointed at our current administration.
Well, you should be.
That's a polite way of saying they've screwed it up.
Big time. Well, and another example of their continued hypocrisy, which is basically their legacy. I mean, that's what they will be known for.
It's a good thing I'm here today.
Is
Otherwise,
that-
this would be a liberal love fest.
Yeah. So instead,
Fair
it's a
balance.
conservative hate fest. No.
Oh, come
Well,
on.
wasn't that the
Just kidding.
didn't Jamie miss the show?
He did
James
miss the
missed
show.
the show.
I did.
Which it would have been good to have
Would've
him on
been
there,
good.
really.
Yeah.
But no, that now they are lobbying against anti-terrorism legislation to make our chemical plants safer. The Bush administration is actually lobbying against that.
Why? I mean, I'm just curious what the logic is.
Well, who knows? Unless they've gotten a lot of donations from chemical plants, and they don't want to have to do what they'd have to do to be safer. I mean, I have no idea, but one, it was a piece that was part of the Iraq spending bill. And
Right.
so he, of course, went to Mitch McConnell and was like, get this pulled, because he, of course, wanted to sign the Iraq spending bill,
Right.
but didn't want to have money go. And I mean, apparently some report just came out about how we are actually
Oh yeah.
sitting ducks in the
Absolutely.
area of our chemical plants and still our nuclear
Yeah.
plants. And they're unguarded and
Nuclear or nuclear?
Would I say it wrong? My husband's going to
Did you
kill
say it
me.
Republican or did you say it Democrat?
Well, and nuclear power being one of the cleanest sources of power we have, I don't know why actually we're not expanding nuclear power plants, but that's another issue too.
Well, but it has the...
Yeah, I mean, a little
it-
waste, put
right?
it in Yucca Mountain or whatever, what's 10 million years? But, I mean, it beats cutting down trees and digging out coal.
Well, it's
yeah,
true, but I think
you know.
there's clean... I mean, we're starting to find cleaner
We're getting
ways to do it
better at
anyway,
it.
so...
But personally, I would think that nuclear power plants are our most efficient and least dirty, other than you have to maintain this stuff for a long period of time. Way of having
But don't they have the potential for like a meltdown, which can...
It depends on which generation you're looking at.
Yeah, the new
Everybody
ones.
remembers Chernobyl because it did really melt down, but that was a generation zero type of reactor, and the ones that France is building. In fact, France is the country that has the nuclear power technology, no longer the United States, and they've got systems in place that do address the safety issues. That's still the issue, though, about how fearful are we going to be of the radiation, and how fearful will we be or cautious about the what do we do with the nuclear waste.
Right. Because then you have communities like go haywire when they find out they want to bring the waste through on train
Right.
through their
Yeah.
communities. And
Yeah.
Now, that's nasty stuff when it's like that. But again, it's that phobia about radiation in the first place. I mean, if the most likely place you'll run into radioactive waste is in a hospital dumpster, because they are the largest users in the community of radioactive materials because of diagnostics and treatment. And it's there. It's in our communities. If you live near any hospital in town, they're
You live
using
near it.
nuclear waste there. And so, is that hospital following all the guidelines?
Yeah.
Is it doing it safely? Who
I
knows?
like this guy. See, he's okay.
Interesting.
I was worried I was
Yeah.
going to get beat up the whole time.
I got some nuclear waste out in the car.
Happy to share.
Reasoned and rational approach. Very good.
Well, of course he
Unlike
is.
most
He's
of the
from-
liberal
he's
arguments
from
that tend to be very emotional. And
academia and
that's very good. All right, good.
You got macadamia nuts?
I do.
I like
Oh, you said academia. Sorry, I thought you said macadamia.
So, and actually, so Jan will let him introduce a little bit about himself, and kind of, where your background's been, and I know you were at OMSI for.
It
a
all
while.
started out at a 5,000 watt radio station in Fresno, California.
Mine started out in the back seat.
Oh, Jamie, please.
What's my mom and dad? You want to know?
When we did
Like, I just had to be honest about it.
Actually, we didn't ask. We asked about Jan, not you.
But did life start at that moment? But that's
Well,
that's
that's a
another
different
show.
debate.
That's another show.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but like I said, chairs both our math and science department, and actually, I'll toot your horn a
What?
little bit, was awarded one of the Faculty Excellence Awards this
Oh.
past year at graduation.
Very good.
Got a huge round of applause.
It
A
was
lot
a
of the
nice
students were
surprise.
very excited about that. So,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about your background and kind of
Wow.
your area of study. And
Okay, well, first of all, the Merrillhurst University has an environmental science program, and that's my connection to, well, why did we invite this guy? My professional background is astronomy and physics. I've worked at OMSI for a number of years as their science director, developing a lot of the exhibits. Worked for private companies where exhibits developed, been a planetarium director, consultant. So I've done a lot of stuff with science, mainly because it's fun. Science is a way to play. I think we're all scientists when we're 9, 10 years old, and this way I get to be 9 and 10 forever.
all the time. And where you said he's done some exhibits, your exhibits some have been all over the world.
Yeah. The projects I've been involved with the teams I've worked with, in such foreign lands as Israel, Saudi Arabia, New Jersey.
Very different.
I'm from Jersey. I'm a guy from Jersey, and it's a foreign land.
I do have to say, though, the Oregon Museum of Science is very cool, OMSI,
Yes.
and the displays they do are just
Yeah.
phenomenal, and I've always been very impressed.
Phil and I
so.
are excited to go to the
Very
Body
cool.
Worlds. Have
Oh
you
yeah.
been there yet?
Haven't seen
Body
it,
World?
the whole thing, but I've seen
Yeah.
pieces of it.
Have you
so to
heard
speak.
about it?
I've
that
just seen
exhibit?
bits and pieces.
Oh,
Of the
looks like
bodies?
it'd be really cool.
I couldn't help.
Like, ba-dum, boom.
Shut up, dude.
So global warming.
Let's talk about global warming.
So why don't maybe we ought to just start off with you? Kind of general. Just what is global warming? What's kind of happening when people say global warming?
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good place to start.
Sure.
So-
Just some basics. The Earth gets warmed by sunlight. The heat from the sun is moved around by the atmosphere, is moved around by the oceans. And so some places get more, some places get less, depending upon what's happening with the climate or what's happening with the wind flow or ocean currents. But what happens with global warming is the Earth is warming up over time. And this is something that people were starting to look at over 40 years ago. And we've done a lot of research since, and it's looking more and more as if the Earth is warming up over some baseline average. And the cause of that happens to be the air that's surrounding us in our atmosphere, because the gases that are in our atmosphere block the heat that want to leave the Earth, want to go back out into space after the sun warms us up.
Hold on. So this is where I'm kind of confused. So I think, and certainly I'm not a scientist, but there seems to be evidence that the Earth is warming up, right?
Yeah.
But do we actually know why? I mean, the Earth has warmed and cooled for eons. I mean, we came out of an ice age. Think about Iceland or Greenland. Greenland, it was named Greenland because it was green. It's not particularly green now, but I mean, so there's always been this cycle of warming and cooling and etc. So what causes that?
Well, on the bigger scales, when you have major climate change like what happens with an ice age, there are a lot of ideas about that. I don't think anybody's got it really nailed down yet. There's been scenarios where, because of the passage of the Earth through our galaxy, we pass through dust clouds periodically, and that may alter the amount of sunlight that we get. There's others that show that the orbit of the Earth is changes on a periodic basis, and so we will spend a few 100,000 years, maybe a couple 100,000 miles farther away from the sun than we normally are, and that could cause an ice
Well, the
age.
sun output's probably not consistent either.
Well, we've been measuring. That's a hard one to measure from the surface of the Earth because you do have the atmosphere in the way, and so we've been measuring the solar constant, the output of the sun, for about maybe 40 or 50 years from space. So once you get it out of the atmosphere, you get a much better measurement, and there really isn't any. Nothing that says, hey, it's, the sun is 5% hotter now,
right,
or the sun is even 0.1% hotter now.
Right.
So we haven't really seen that kind of major change. And even with, there was about 20 years ago, there was an idea that came out, well, what about sunspots? Sunspots are variable, and maybe that causes the Earth's climate to change as well. And I think more study has to be done on that. But the simple reason, if you have sunspots, you have less sunlight, doesn't pan out, because it turns out while the sunlight might be blocked, you get more infrared coming out of the sun at the same time, so it balances out that the same amount of energy is hitting the Earth. So we really don't have nothing to blame any short-term global warming on.
And there was an article
except the greenhouse gas.
just came out on June 20th from some scientists saying that studying mud at various levels, so going back and looking at mud and measuring, and I'd have to sit down and go through it piece by piece, but this particular scientific group comes out and says that the solar output is what drives climate change more than anything else, and that what they're really saying is now maybe rather than global warming, what we really ought to be worried about is global cooling.
Yeah. So get that cord of wood you've been putting off buying for the
Well, is there any truth to that?
Well, I haven't seen that study, so I'd like to, again, that's one of those. There's a lot of stuff being done now that wasn't done because people didn't know what questions to ask. People didn't know which directions of inquiry to follow, and I think that's one of the cool things about this topic being as out and open as it is. It's encouraged funding for research that might not have been funded. I mean, who's going to fund a research on mud?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can say, hey, well, this could help us understand what's going on, you might learn more.
Right.
And you can never tell what information is going to be helpful or not.
Right.
That's one of the bad things about knowledge. You never know when you're going to use it.
True. I mean, isn't it really probably better for us more to be talking about climate change, because global warming doesn't necessarily mean everything gets warmer. It means certain areas can also get colder. Way I've kind of understood it. Here's how it was explained to me.
Good.
Okay, it's kind of like whiskey. Right?
I'm listening now.
When a person drinks whiskey, right, it amplifies the personality that was already there. So when the guy's a jerk, he drinks whiskey, he becomes more of a jerk. Okay, right?
Except to himself.
Except
so
there is that.
True.
Yeah,
true.
He's more cool.
So amplifies. So the way it was explained to me is that what happens is cold places get colder, hot places get hotter, wet places get wetter, and dry places end up getting drier as the whole climate changes and the cycles change.
That's definitely something that can happen when you have a climate change like El Nino, which is every 2 to 7 years or so. And what happens with an El Nino, you have a shift of weather patterns. So now you don't have the moist air going over a particular region, so it's going to get drier. Or you do have much more, and so now you're going to have more rainfall or perhaps ice or snow occurring because it's happening in a winter season when you wouldn't expect it to happen that much. But with global warming, it's this general rise of temperature in the Earth, and the prediction is that the Earth will be warmer, and you are going to have the places that were colder being warmer than they are now, which is happening in the Arctic right now. The Arctic is warming at a faster rate than the rest of the planet.
But here's my overall beef with the whole global warming debate. It's become so political that it's cool to stand up and say I'm trying to save the Earth and I'm riding my bicycle and all that kind of stuff. And I worry then that we're making political decisions and tax decisions based upon, all due respect to Al Gore, who's a very smart guy, and I tease, but really, the debate is not settled. There are thousands of scientists who are studying this and saying, well, we don't know that it's necessarily man-made, and we don't know. And there's a lot of things going on that it's all kind of up in the air. And so then to drive political decisions based upon something that seems so not so settled bothers me, because then I start hiding my money because my taxes are going up. And
I mean, I understand a little bit, but I also think that, at least from everything I've read, that what they'll say is at least 90 to 95% of the scientific community agrees on global warming and agrees that something's happening at an accelerated rate. And if we don't do something about it, there will be ramifications.
But it doesn't mean we can do anything about it. We don't know.
Sure,
that
we can. We can start to reduce the amount of greenhouse
but we don't
gases
know that
we put in the air.
causes the problem.
But why would it hurt not to?
Right.
I'm not saying it would.
What's
hurt
the
too.
risk either way? Okay, the risk of not doing anything
Well, it's
is
financial
huge.
risk.
Yeah,
it's
you
have an
financial risk.
economical risk that other countries
Absolutely.
are going to have to burden as well as ourselves, and that is. I agree with James on that unless we're really sure about what's going on, then do we want to spend the money to clean things up? But I think we are really sure about what's going on, because when I was in college 40 years ago, global warming was already in the lectures. We were already learning about it. People were suspecting this was happening. And why? Now, we've had literally $50 billion or more of research being done in space by thousands upon thousands of scientists in 40 years. And at this point, as Mary said, the consensus among scientific research, and that's not necessarily consensus among scientists, because you can still have scientists saying, hey, I'm not so sure, but the data, the research, which hasn't been countermanded yet, indicates that the Earth is warming up, and it's most likely due to the carbon dioxide.
No, hold on. That's no. So I'm looking at a report here. It talks about the intergovernmental
Where from?
panel. So the intergovernmental panel on climate change, said that the global average surface temperature has increased about 0.6 degrees Celsius over the 20th century. And so we would argue, it's because of us. And actually what that panel said was, it's likely that we have increased the warming. It doesn't say that we caused the warming. Right. We may have affected it at a certain degree. Yeah. So again, we're not the cause of warming. Maybe we have had an impact, and the question is how much of an impact.
Right.
And we don't really know. And again, I don't know if things are necessarily settled. I mean, I've got a report here. This one's kind of old though. So the Heidelberg Appeal Report. You have 4,000 scientists, 72 Nobel Prize winners saying, wait a second, we're not 100% sure that we're causing all this. Now, 4,000 scientists and 72 Nobel Prize winners, that's a lot of people.
But out of how many scientists are there?
So we're going to dismiss all them and say they're dumb?
Well, but we've also been...
You have to ask what their pedigree is, though. Are they in that field? We don't know.
I understand.
Yeah,
just like Al Gore, with all due defense, is not a scientist.
Right.
And there's been scientists found who have been saying these things, and guess who's giving them money? ExxonMobil. They've been busted. So they're getting paid to say what
I'm not saying all those people are on the
want
lam.
them to say.
All I'm saying is I worry that we are politicizing a scientific issue without a full understanding. I mean, when a report comes out on Wednesday by a bunch of scientists saying, hey, we think the Earth's really going to cool based upon all this data we're looking at, that's not what Al Gore told me. And so it comes down to financial.
And what's the ramifications of the whole Earth cooling?
Well, we all get parkas.
There could definitely be
We'll start cutting wood.
what I've heard, this is what I've heard.
Sportswear stock. Buy it now.
Buy an REI stock. I mean,
now, what I heard was that while the whole Earth as a whole has warmed 1 degree Fahrenheit in the last 50 years, but the Arctic has increased 5 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 50 years. So basically, the Arctic is melting.
but we don't know that again, even the governmental report does not say we caused that. It says we have contributed, but we did not cause it.
But if you know how to slow that down, because
we don't
you
know how to slow it
yes,
down.
you do. That's basically that's the whole idea of the greenhouse effect.
I think
And Jan needs to weigh in. I mean, here's the expert, right?
No, I'm not the expert. Though.
Well,
First
more
to
so
admit that.
than not sitting there pontificating about how much of an expert we are.
But I got a June 14th report.
There you go. Dude, you were 6 days behind me.
I know. This is the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and it's saying that 2,500 scientists who are working in the field, representing 130 countries, concluded that humans have caused all or most of the current planetary warming. So it shouldn't be a battle of who's reading what from what paper.
Right.
Is we should say, what body of knowledge will we accept as being the one we should listen to? Now, the IPCC, I think, is a heavyweight. I think the National Academy of Sciences is a heavyweight. And if the Soviet Academy or the Russian Academy of Sciences comes out and says, "Hey, it's not happening. It's totally opposite this," then I think we should listen to them because they're no slouches either. But so far, the big guns are saying, "Yeah, we've done this research 40, 50 years now, even more, and it's happening." Now, I think you've got a very important point, though, Jamie, about did we cause it all? Probably not, and I don't think anybody has said that we do, but we've caused some of it. And if the climate is warming, then there is going to be, especially if it's warming at the rate that we're being told it is, then there is going to be major economic problems, especially for seacoasts and everybody else who happens to live near an ocean.
Of course, that's happened for thousands of years.
Yeah, but what are we going to?
That's not.
But
any
now we
different.
can do something about it. Now we can plan. You see, do you want to wait to the last minute
No.
to do something, or do you want to
You wanna
spread it out
plan.
over 1,000
And
years?
I'm totally good for that. What
Yeah.
I'm not good for is,
Yeah.
oh my God, let's tax everybody to death. Let's make sure that we.
Nobody's talking about taxing people to death. We're talking about investing in other forms of energy, such as wind and solar and wave energy. We're talking about other forms of fuel, like
Riding your bike to
biodiesel.
work.
These types of things that, first of all, increase jobs.
and those
they
are good
invest in
things
the
to do.
infrastructure, and they get us our ass out of the Middle East,
Tho-
which is another great
Yeah.
plus.
but those are good things to do.
right.
Again, my only argument is
but
A,
you're just listening about being taxed, and that's
No, no,
not
no.
what anybody's really saying.
So global warming
It
was
all-
caused by Iraq, is what you're saying.
It's a rat's fault.
It actually does. It does.
There's the justification.
It does
You
come
got a
down
piece
to
of paper that says that?
it does come down to a financial issue, and of course, America takes usually a large burden for that kind of stuff, and so I'm not saying advances in technology aren't good. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ride our bicycles more. I'm not saying that we probably have contributed in some way. We really don't know, and so if planning is good, I'm not saying planning's not good. We probably had to do that. The hyperbole just kills me.
Yeah.
It just kills me.
Well, but I don't
I
think
roll my
you're
eyes
getting
after
it
a
everywhere.
while.
I think it depends on the sources that you're listening
It's
to.
all over the place.
So-
The hyperbole's everywhere. I mean, it's all over the news. It's all over.
But corporate media is going to once your reaction, because it's corporate media who sits and has members of the ExxonMobil organization on their boards. I mean, it's all very incestuous, and so they don't want the truth to really get out, so they hype it up, and they do it this way so that we either get apathetic and say there's no point in caring, or we sit and say, see, this is all a bunch of gun, because you're not getting the straight talk. That's my point from the news. Really.
I was told by the news that Al Gore invented the internet, and I'm sticking to that. I'm sure that's what he said. But here's the point: he didn't say that.
He did not say that.
But he's been labeled with that
He
unfairly
was
by the
responsible
media.
for the funding.
Right.
for it.
Congratulations. I mean, good for him. But he's been labeled as that really unfairly
Right.
by the media.
And you, who continues to
No,
repeat it.
I don't really believe it. It's
He just retracted that. He explained the whole
yeah.
story here.
So, and it's that
But-
same media that's hyping up this whole global war. I mean, I have kids coming home going, oh my God, the Earth's gonna die in 20 years and we're going to hell. It's like, come on, let my kid just study math and science.
Well, I don't
Quit
think that's
feeding them
what
this
they're
crap.
they're teaching. That may be the child taking that information and
Probably so.
I highly doubt the teacher saying we're going to be going to hell.
Well, they told me I was.
But I think here's something. We talked a little bit about the seacoast and where those people sit at a risk. But here in the Northwest, this is two ways that I understand that we have issue. Is one that they have shown a relationship in the increasing forest fires, and we know what damage that does.
But hold on.
and particularly when people.
Part of our forest fire problem is we have horrible forest management techniques. And also,
Well, but-
there's a debate that says just let the forest burn. That's what it did for thousands of years before we got here.
Well, that's great, except when your house is on the perimeter of it.
Well, then
like
don't
down in
build it
California.
there.
Well, but that's But
don't
another
like the
big
forest
one.
burning?
Another big one I'd
Get the
say
hell
for us
out.
is water supply.
That is
and
a
it
big
talks
problem.
about change between snow and rain. 75% of our water supply comes from snowpack. We need that to store water for us. And so if we stop getting snowpack, and then the other interesting thing was 75% of the nation's fruit is produced here. And there are already reports of farmers up in Yakima County in Washington and out in Hood River who are struggling with the less rain and water and losing fruit. I mean, it has...
What happened to the Incas? Why'd they die out?
Apocalypto.
No, a lot of people think it was climate change.
I'm sorry.
And maybe because they were driving around big Hummers and caused some kind of global problem. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this has gone on for thousands of years, and it's going to go on.
But that doesn't
for
mean
thousands of years.
we can't adjust as people and adapt.
And we probably will, but will we really make a difference? Actually, I'm skeptical that we really will.
I think the big thing is if we recognize we have a hand in any of this, that we can slow the process down, give time. But to me, it's like, why even bother slowing the process down if we're not going to start the planning for what we will do rationally over the next 100 years?
I agree.
Why the heck not? Let's all go to hell in a handbasket right now.
Yeah.
Have the big party, and I think that's part of what's going on here, because I think the hyperbole that you hear is maybe it's a mirror of the excitement, which is not good excitement, from the people who see what's happening, see it as a 100-year issue, but know that it has to get started now. And I thought of something this morning, and this is more about people and how we think about things. First week in November, you're going to have people telling you, isn't it terrible? They're doing the Christmas ads already. It's earlier than ever before, okay? But yet nobody gets upset about the snow melt is happening 3 weeks earlier now than it did 20 years ago. The butterflies are coming out 5 weeks earlier than they did 20 years ago. This is our planet. What does that mean? Right. Nobody cares. They're going to complain about Christmas ads. And so there's a misguidance of or maybe a misplacement of where concern is. And people are going to be more concerned about hearing those stupid Christmas ads than the things that may actually be signals that something is going on.
Right. But I mean, you can say that's because nobody knows what to do or why it's important.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Or it's so daunting and
powerless.
confusing, so you just get apathetic.
Yeah.
Right. It's too big. It's too big for me to think about.
Or these things, to make these changes in your life cost money. And,
I'm all for educating people, creating awareness. I mean, it's like anything. You don't want people to drink and drive. You create awareness. I'm all for that. It's when they start saying, well, why don't we start reaching into your pockets some more? And we have a huge financial problem in the United States. I know I always drive it back to that stuff, but there was an article that I saw today that our deficit last year was like 230 billion or something. But if you really take all the money that we owed Social Security and stuff, it's like $1 trillion. So, I mean, our deficit is huge.
Well, it's because our war isn't even in our budget either.
Yeah,
so
and that's all deficit
thing.
spending, and so they obfuscate everything, and so you don't really know how much it is, and so I worry that it's like, oh, well,
But yet, so we get fed up because, maybe we ought to be screaming more about the war. Maybe we ought to be screaming about our taxes going to subsidies for oil companies who are making insane profits, but they're still getting subsidies.
Well,
so
I
instead,
agree.
Let's take our tax money and let's invest more in wind power.
I agree.
And solar power.
I agree.
And another, I think, big one that has to do with a byproduct, if you will, of global warming, which speaks to me, being a person with allergies, is when I read about the increase in pollen as the greenhouse. And we need carbon dioxide.
So hold on. When you started reading about the increase in pollen, that's when your allergies got worse, right?
No. It has been a miserable...
Oh, my God. I just read about it.
I'm sneezing. God, my eyes are burning.
Okay. I'm not a hypochondriac. Thank you very much. And I've had heard more people talk about how awful it's been. People who've never even had allergies, and they have just felt awful all spring. And that's a big piece because as the carbon dioxide increases, that's good, right? Because it grows plants, but it also grows all the weeds and the stuff. And how many people die of asthma each year? It's a large
7
number. No, it's not. It's...
Well, look at all the ads for asthma medications that are out there.
I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I remember one time hearing it thinking, my God, that many people die each year from asthma? I mean, that's amazing.
I think with the...
So it has public health ramifications.
I don't
too.
disagree. I think the difference between you and I and maybe... I go back to... if you ever read the book, I actually haven't read it, just synopsis of it, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. It's like one of the original books on economics. And Adam Smith's theory of economics, which continues to hold out, is that there's an invisible hand that drives us. And that invisible hand makes decisions for society, and we will move, and we'll move into markets. And so if everybody decides they want wheat, then we'll start growing more wheat, and so therefore we'll start satisfying demand. And then as more people grow wheat, then of course the cost of wheat goes down, and blah, blah, blah. So Adam Smith's idea is that we will move and we will adapt and we will change, and we will invent things to take care of our culture and our society, and that's what's going to happen. We are going to adapt. We are going to change. We are going to modify how we do things. I just hate the hyperbole that, and I worry that we start then dictating to people what they ought to do. And I think it seems a little excess to me.
Well, I mean, there's nobody trying to make a law for you to get rid of your big gas guzzling truck and drive a hybrid like me.
Like a concerned, aware citizen.
Hey, I ride a motorcycle.
But I mean, who's shoving things down your throat?
80 miles to the gallon.
That isn't happening.
It's Harley?
It is more about education.
They're not yet, but my
that's
worry is
what I'm saying is,
my
where are
worry
you
is it
getting
will.
that? I mean, because I don't feel like it's being shoved down my throat.
Sure, it's not, but it'll be in ways that necessarily you can't see. But I also agree, though, that we could spend less money on other things and more money on education and technology, because I think it really comes down to solving it with technology more than anything else.
And
2
how much
minutes.
of our healthcare crisis is due to some of the
yeah.
public health ramifications that are coming from allergies and asthma? I mean,
Well-
it's all part of one big system.
And if we
It's
turn
all
off
connected.
Spanish TV, more people learn English. You guys see that from Schwarzenegger this week?
What?
There was a huge
Oh,
debate
no.
because he gave a speech said when you come into the
Segue.
country you ought to turn off the Spanish channel and watch English channel and learn English. And everybody's like, oh my God, you can't make us do that. I mean, it seemed kind of common sense to me.
What about all the English people that watch the Spanish channel to learn Spanish?
Yeah.
Well, good for you. But if you want to be in America and you want to integrate, turn off the Spanish channel. I don't know. I think we're about out of time.
English is not the national language of the United States, Jamie. We all know
English
that.
is actually the international language of business. And business is what drives this world. And if you want to conduct business in the world, you have to speak English.
Okay.
On that note, you know what really sucks? So I know we're almost out of time. We needed more time for this.
Yeah.
It's been
We need
fun,
to have you
folks.
back.
I'd be
Yeah.
happy to
Will
come
you
back.
come back?
You're
Yeah.
a nice bunch of people to hang
We're
with.
good.
Come back in 20 years when the world is going
Right,
to end
yeah,
and
yeah.
we're going
And
to
we're all
hell.
going to
I
hell.
actually, knowing that you know Mary, I expect you to be more radical and left fringe, and you're actually pretty rational and intelligent and nice. So thank you. You can come back anytime.
Thanks for being here, Jan. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
See how he spews?
It's my job. Fair and balanced, honey.
Right.
Fair and balanced.
Right. So instead of the facts, you just attack people, just like the
No,
conservative.
I didn't attack
Sure you
anybody.
I didn't feel attacked.
No, he didn't feel attacked. I just
Well,
said he
that was in a
He was
subtle
radical
way.
in a subtle way.
So,
Another way.
You're glowing.
That's not getting you off the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
James, where can we be reached?
And we got to get our website right. You and I
We
blew,
do.
we blew it
did
last
because
show.
it's beer30live.com.
Exactly.
How can we be reached?
www.beer30live.com.
beer30live.com.
Or you can reach us
at the show at beer30live.com.
Or at Jamie at the
Jamie or
Mary
Shane or Mary.
Right.
or
And
Pete.
we got our comment board up, and more people are making comments on the show, so it'll
Very
be
good.
interesting to
Yes,
hear what people have
and
to
we've
say.
been actually known to write back to people now and again and continue to pontificate and educate.
When Jamie checks.
I check my email all the time.
Okay,
now.
good.
Yeah, because I got
Good.
it all down.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. We hate to leave you, but with that,
We're out.